Hi guys, it's DarthKater. Today I'm going to be doing a little art activity. I'm going to be painting a rock. This is something fun that you can do at your home with the supplies that you have. And it's actually the second step of the Brownie Art Creator Badge. So I'll tell you what you need and then we can get started. Alright, so what you're gonna need is a rock and some paints, of course, and then something to put underneath your rock so you don't ruin your counters or table or wherever you're doing this activity. You're also gonna need a water cup and some brushes. I've got these and a few others. You're going to need something to dry your brushes off. I actually have a paint rag. Paper towels will work just fine. So, I actually have already drawn out a little plan. I've decided that I'm going to do some like koi fish or koi pond, something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and I have mixed my paints already. And I'm going to paint my rocks blue first for the water. So this is going to take a little bit because the paints are going to have to dry, but it's a fun little activity to do with the stuff we have outside. Okay, so I've painted the top and the sides of my rock. I did not paint the bottom because that's just going to stick to my cover on the counter. So you have to cover all those sides and then you have to wait and let it dry. So this is going to be a little bit of a process, but it's going to look awesome in the end. Okay, so my rock has gone ahead and dried. So now I'm going to go in and add a little bit of detail to the blue to make it look a little bit more like water with a little bit of like ripples and waves and stuff like that. You don't need a lot of paint. A little goes a lot when you're painting. So I'm not gonna use a whole ton to do this because all it does is make it a little bit harder to dry. The more paint you have, the longer it takes. And if you're like me, you don't want to wait forever to keep working on a project that you've got going. So I'm gonna make this blue a little bit darker because it isn't as dark as I like it. It doesn't complement it as well. I think I like that a lot. So I'm actually going to go ahead and make this be the pond looking side. So the sides look like they're a little bit deeper in the water. I'm going to go ahead and cover this whole thing and I will be back with that after this. So I've got the full top covered and so you can see it's a lot lighter. I think I'm going to work on like a gradient that kind of makes it look like it's a little bit deeper. So I'm going to take something that's a little bit darker than the top but a lot lighter than this, and I'm going to kind of work it in and blend it a little bit, see if I can't make a little gradient going on, you know? So we're going to go ahead and start working that into the rock and making sure it's a nice even coat and it's not too thick so it dries nicely, and go all the way around the rock. Our bottom is still not painted, that way we can place it back down and let it dry. We can do the bottom at the very end. Okay, so I've kind of done a little gradient. It's not anything too fancy, it's just different shades of blue. So I'm going to clean my brushes off, making sure all the paint gets off of there. And we don't want blues in any of our other colors at the moment. Of course, you can do anything that you want on your rock. You don't have to do koi ponds. I've got cow rocks I've made before. There's ladybugs you can do. There's all sorts of fun stuff that you can do with rocks and when painting them. So I'm going to go ahead and let the sides dry, and then I will start working on the fish. Alrighty, so I think it's dry. I'm going to do something I like to call the tap test. So I'm just going to tap on my sides, see if it's, coming off on my finger. I think there's a little bit coming off, but that's nothing too bad. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get started on my little koi fish. So I'm going to actually grab a marking utensil. I think a pencil will do just fine. I've got a mechanical one here. You can use whatever if you want to draw something on it. I'm going to kind of sketch in where I want my fish to be at. So I'll just add basic little shapes, nothing too fancy, because you're going to cover it all in paint. So don't spend too much time on it. But I'm just getting the basic layout of where I'm going to want my fish to be at. So I've got one here. I think maybe one here would be fun to do. So it's like they're swimming around together. And just, like I said, it's just basic shapes to get a good feel of where you're going to want to paint your little fish or whatever you're drawing on for the details. And then maybe we could add a little lily pad going on over here, you know? Just whatever you think is going to bring your art piece to life. Okay, so I think that's good. I'm going to go ahead and start painting over that. So I've got a smaller brush for the details because they're not anything too big and I don't want to make anything a little off on mine. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with base layer of orange for my fish color, and then I'll go over it again later with details. So just carefully put it over there. It's going to need a few coats because you're going to be able to see the blue behind it, and that's okay. I'm just going to get a basic layout of where my fish are so I can see them a little bit better. I'll go ahead and start the other one now. And these will dry fairly quickly because it's going to be a very small amount of paint on a larger surface with not as much thickness on it, so it'll dry a lot quicker. So we don't have to wait as long for those, so that's nice. But I think that's good for layer 1 on my fish. I'm going to go ahead and tap test this guy. He looks like he's already dry. So I'm going to go ahead and add his second coat onto him. See, after the second coat, the blue behind it is already fading away. Probably do a third coat just to be safe. Then we'll tap test fish number 2, and he's pretty good already. So we'll go over him again. We'll just do this until I think that they look good enough for thickness wise. Again, we'll just take it kind of slow, so don't get anything anywhere I don't want it to be. Make everything a little bit easier. But I'll be back after I've got my thickness I like. Okay, so I think I'm happy with the look of the thickness of the fish. So you can see I've got them. There's still a little bit of the blue showing through around their edges, but that's okay because I'll be going over them again, of course, with other details. So I'm going to go ahead and mix a yellow or a green, and I'm going to do the lily pad down here real quick. So to make green, I'm going to need this blue and some yellow. I'll just mix it to a good color. I like this color actually. So I'm gonna go ahead, get any excess paint off so I can do a little bit cleaner of lines. And go ahead and just, again, do the basic shape that I'm gonna want my lily pad to be. So that's gonna be, you know, a little circle with a little indent like they are in movies and stuff like that, in real life as well. Get a little bit more paint. And then come out over here and do my little, almost looks like a little Millennium Falcon for those Star Wars fans out there. But there's my little lily pad, and again I'll kind of go over it again and make it a little bit more stand-outish, the way you can see it a little bit better. I might go in and I'm gonna go ahead and lighten up a bit of this green over here to give it a little bit of accent. I don't like how light it is. That'll do. It's like a little mint green, so I'm gonna go ahead and like cover just little bits of this with that. Give it a little bit of brightness. So again, it's a little bit stand outing of the water. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then again, since this is a lot thinner and less area than the big rock painting, it's gonna dry fairly quickly, so I'm able to do this fairly right after one another. It's nice. Okay, I'm gonna call that good, and then I'm gonna clean my brush off to get all that green off. So I am done with the green. Next, I'm going to go ahead and work on the details of the fish, so their fins and the spots that koi fish have. I'm going to do that in white, and maybe add a few black. We'll see how that goes. So I have a brush that is very small. I'll go ahead and show it. It's almost no bristles on it, if you can see, but it's very good for detail work, and so that's what I'll be using it for. You can, of course, use whatever brush you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and just coat the end of it in paint, and anything that's just hanging off of it off, and then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna place my spots onto my koi fish. So I'm gonna target areas where it's a little bit more thin, so I can cover anything that's gonna show blue through it. So like right here, I don't know if you guys can see that, there is a little bit of brown showing from the blue going through the orange, and that's alright. I'm just gonna go ahead and coat it with the white, and it's gone. And I'm just gonna do that on both of the fish, not too much that it makes the fish just white, but enough to show that it's a koi fish and has its spots. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Let's get all that one. And I'll move over to this guy, and let's see, I think he's fairly thick throughout, so I'll do lots of little edge ones. Okay, I think I'm gonna call, actually, yeah, okay, so now that I've got my spots on my koi, I'm going to work on their fins and whiskers and see if I can't make them have those. I'm gonna do that in white as well to add a little bit more of an accent color to them. So I'm going to use, again, this brush, the very tiny, almost no bristles brush, and I'm going to kind of trace in basic shapes what I drew earlier on. And I'm just gonna add it, make it look flowy, and then of course we can clean it up after we do the basic shapes if needed. Add a little bit on my brush. And it's okay if it looks a little, splotchy. It's okay. We can always do another layer. That's how paint is. It's very finicky about how everything works. So go ahead and start on this guy's tail while the other guy dries. cover his tail, and then we'll go to his fins. And it looks like they may overlap, but that's okay. Oh, there we go. We just barely close. Alrighty, so now that I've got the basics of my fish, I'm going to let those dry, and I'm going to work on some details on my little lily pad. So I'm going to clean off this brush real quick, get all the paint off of it. I'm going to use the same brush that has almost, no bristles on it. I'm going to take some of my black and put it in my green to create a little bit of a darker color to work with to use for shadows. So just a little bit. I don't need too much of this darker paint. Okay, let's see. Mixing. Alright, I think that's pretty good, so I'm going to wipe off any excess black that is stuck on my brush, and I'm going to go ahead and work with this green. I'm going to go in and just do little bits of like shadows on the sides to give it again this sense that it's popping off of the rock. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, of course, it's just a little bit of detail to give it a little bit more to it. Okay, see, so like that, and then we can pull it up a little bit, make it real thin. That's almost dry already, so there we go. And then from there, I might add a little bit on there. Did not dry my brush off properly. Just like that, and then a little bit more, I think. Alright, so I think I'm happy with my lily pad, so we'll call that a good lily pad and be done with it. I'm gonna go ahead and make a gray. I'm gonna go use a different brush to mix though. So I'll grab a little bit of white in here. I'm gonna want it a fairly light gray, so I'm gonna grab more white than I will black. And we'll mix it, and this is pretty good. I'm gonna mix it a little bit more to make sure all of it's blended well. I'm gonna call that good. So now I'm going to go over the fins again with a different brush than the one that has nothing on it. I actually have this one as well. And I'm going to grab my paint, make sure it's not too much so it doesn't run everywhere and it dries well, and I'm just gonna kind of go over where it connects to the fish with that, and a little bit more into the tails than the fins, but this will give it a little bit more detail into it and add a little bit more to it. So from there, I think I'm going to mix a little bit of this blue that I've made into my gray, and then I can add a little bit around the fish to cause like ripple effect. So I'm going to use that same brush, and I'm going to take a little bit of my blue. That's a lot of blue. I'm going to take a little bit of that off, and I'm going to go in like this, and it's made this nice little blue-gray that looks weird. So I'm going to go ahead and actually add a little bit more blue, see if I can't darken this up. Add a little black. Okay, I'm going to call that okay. And then I'm going to just go behind where this fish is, right here. Make sure I actually have paint on my brush, and then I'm just going to here and then here, and then on this fish I'll do it in roughly the same spots. It's a little bit gray actually. And then here, and then from there I think I'm good. So thank you all for watching. I hope you had fun making your rocks, and let me know what you did for your rock. Put it down in the comments. I'd love to see them. Alright, thanks for watching.